I have with me today Kristina Wolfe. She's a physical therapist and she's going to talk to us about falls. This is Falls Prevention Month, and we've just seen so many things in the news or in our families where people have fallen, and there's just many after effects. So it's always a good time for us to do this type of thing and remind everyone you don't have to be elderly to fall, you don't have to be sick. It can just be a simple accident. So we want everyone to start being more aware of your surroundings. And Kristina has agreed to do this with me today, and she's going to introduce herself. Thank you so much, Kristina, for being here.
Thank you for having me. As Patty said, I am a physical therapist with over 25 years of clinical experience. I'm also a credentialed balance and falls professional and the founder and owner of Prosper PT and Wellness. I'm an active steering committee member for both the Triangle and the North Carolina Falls Prevention Coalitions as well. And my company our mission is to help older adults to age well and in place through prevention, education, and wellness. So I'm really hopeful that some of this today is going to be valuable information to help you age well and age in place.
So, Kristina, can you tell me why this is such a passion of yours?
I've just seen so much that changes in someone's life when you experience a fall. And it could be just a simple fall that doesn't really cause an injury, but it tends to change people. They fear falling in the future. They change their habits. They don't go out as much, or they change when they go out, and so they're less social. And it's just it's a whole new world when you fall. So I would love to help people to engage with prevention so that they can live really well, try to reduce their risk of falls really easily in their homes, and as you know, they change their habits.
Yes, it can be life changing.
It can.
Yes, I was just in a meeting yesterday sitting with a lady, and she was talking about a distant family member who she had fallen a while back and now she's in a wheelchair. So they were trying to take her someplace. And she was so fearful as they lifted her into the vehicle that she got she was just so nervous that she didn't participate and she started to resist. So, of course, she didn't fall, but they had to guide her down to the ground. So
Mm,
her worst fear came about. And I immediately said to this lady, I said, that means she's fallen a lot. She said, yes, she has, because the more they fall, the more fearful they are. So it's just a whole cascade of things starts to happen once someone
absolutely.
falls. So my focus today is to concentrate on what happens in the home, because that's where most falls occur. Is that correct?
That's true. That is
So
true.
I'd like to know, where do most falls occur in the home? Is there a place where most falls occur? Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, most falls occur between the bedroom and the bathroom, or in the bathroom itself. And I believe that's because, as we age, we do have some nighttime voiding that comes about. Sometimes we don't want to turn on the light. Maybe we have our partner sleeping next to us and we don't want to disturb them. So we try to make it to the bathroom without turning on a light. And you trip on something, or you just don't, you get out of bed too quickly. It could be that there's a rushing involved, that there's an incontinence issue. And then, there's often throw rugs in the bathroom. We keep them there for a reason, because the cold floor, but also because we, get out of the shower there, and so we want to catch the drips off of us and that sort of thing. But throw rugs can be a hazard if they're not adhered to the floor properly. So we always want to make sure that we have them taped down, or they have a nice rubber backing. The other thing is that there are wet surfaces in the bathroom. We'll wash our hands. We may have to reach over to get to the towel, and there's a few drips there that we didn't really realize got to the floor. So then when we go in at night, the floor may be a little damp, and we could slip in that. So the bathroom's pretty tricky. Another reason is just strength. getting up and down from a toilet sometimes is a little harder. There aren't any armrests there usually, so people have a harder time getting up from there, and they can actually fall while they're trying to get up from the toilet. And then the last thing I would say as to why we fall in the home in general is improper footwear. We tend to like our slippers or things when we're at home, or maybe we just like to walk around in our socks. And sometimes that is really, really risky. So we could have a pair of socks on and come down our stairs, and those socks just make our feet fly right out from under us. Or a slipper that doesn't have a real good fit can cause you to trip. My mother actually fell on her own slippers. They were too big, and she slept on the back of one and fell and broke her arm. So it's real. Like we need to pay attention to what we're doing every day, so that we can just take these tiny little things that we can change and make a big difference, a big impact on our fall risk.
One of the things I always noticed when I was doing in-home care as a nurse and I went to do assessments is that as people age, sometimes they gather a little more, I'll call it clutter.
Mm-hmm.
More things sitting next to the chair, things on the side table, on the coffee table, and don't you touch it, because they know where everything is, they know what it is, and it has to stay that way. So, or they get something that they have someone bring from the bedroom and they're like, put it right there, and they want it to stay there, not remembering that as they may try to get up. So can you talk a little bit about how clutter contributes to falls in the home?
Yeah, absolutely. Clutter comes in different forms and in different amounts. So like we could have a newspaper next to our chair, and that's a little different than having a large amount of objects that are piled up next to our chair. But both of them can do damage. Depending on how high the clutter is, it could be piled up to the point where it could easily fall and obstruct your pathway when you're trying to get up to go to the bathroom, or to answer the door or the telephone. Most of us have a telephone right next to us these days, but that was a thing where people would rush to answer the phone, and the clutter would be in the way. The other thing I would say is that a lot of us will put little things on the stairs to take up with us the next time we go up, and then we forget to take it. And so now we're coming down the stairs, and we may be carrying something that we wanted to bring down the stairs. We don't see that object anymore on the steps, and it impedes your ability to put your foot down properly on the step. So clutter is it's important to take care of it, to be a little more tidy. The other thing, I just went to a class called Steps to Safety, which is done with fire safety as well in mind. And so it's fall safety and fire safety. And one of the things that they talked a lot about was how clutter can get in the way of your ability to escape a fire safely. So we really need to think about keeping our clutter to a minimum, so that we have a clear egress or path to exit our homes, and that in the case that we get stuck in a room and a fireman or an EMS or somebody needs to come to our rescue, that they can also get to us pretty easily. So
Yes, and the more clutter you have, the more things there are to catch fire.
exactly, yeah, they call that the fire load. So yeah, we definitely don't want to increase the amount of food for the fire, for sure.
Well, thank you for tying those together. And when you talked about putting things on the steps going up and down, I do that all the time. And
I
I
do too.
put it in the corner, but you're right. You could just forget, have something in your hand, not see it. And
Yeah.
that can very easily happen. And as I said, you don't have to be infirmed or elderly. It can just happen by accident. Just something is just a little bit out of place. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be a lot.
Yeah,
So
behavior change. It's behavior change, and that is the name of the game. We just have to learn how to change little behaviors, and then hopefully that'll reduce your risks.
now, are there tools where maybe someone can have a person come into their home and do an assessment to see if they have hazards that they haven't noticed themselves, because we're there all the time and maybe we miss it. So what type
Yeah.
of information can you give us there?
Well, yeah, actually, I just, like I said, the Steps to Safety program is a great program. They have partners that go out into the home and they do an assessment. There's a little checklist with that, but there's also just home safety assessments are available online. There's a lot of reputable sites like the CDC, the National Council on Aging, also the North Carolina Falls Prevention Coalition. We have several home safety assessments, I believe, on our site that you can go to. And there's a new website called Standing Strong NC, and there are lots of resources on there as well. And I know home safety assessment is on that site as well. But these are checklists that you can do on your own. You can do them with a family member to determine, if you have any risks in your home, if they're modifiable, what needs to take place. But if you're unable to do the checklist, you don't have the means to do that, there are professionals that will come out to help you determine where your risks are and what modifications could be made. We want to keep you in your home. We want to keep you safe in your home and independent as long as possible. So occupational therapists, physical therapists, we take it upon ourselves to look at your homes in a way that incorporates mobility, and we make modifications, some of which are very simple, and others, might need a handyman to come out and actually make the modification. But all older adults are going to benefit from this assessment. So I mean, yeah, I would say all older adults, especially, the older you get, and the likelihood of your falls increases after the age of 65. And it actually doubles after 85. So I would say, the sooner the better. Get your home assessed and decrease your risk of falls so that you can stay at home.
Thank you for that. Can you talk about some inexpensive ways that we can make our homes safer?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I've kind of already mentioned is turning on a light. So I said that, a lot of the falls happen between the bed and the bathroom, and it's usually because we don't turn the light on at night. So having a light right next to your bed that you can turn on, or the night lights that are motion sensor, you can put those on so that when you start getting out of bed, the light comes on. The other important thing is to have sufficient lighting at the top and at the bottom of your stairs. So if you don't turn on the light, if you don't have a light in your stairwell, I would absolutely recommend getting some night lights for the top, like if there's a plug near the top of the stairs and the bottom, so that you have those two areas well lit so you can see those stairs one by one. You can tell the depth, that you're getting ready to step to the edge of that step. That's a huge, huge area for falls. Other things we already talked about: reducing your clutter, taping down your throw rugs. So they do have tape that's specific to help get your throw rug to stay down and not curl up on the edges. But not all throw rugs are bad. Like I said, we need throw rugs to catch the water when we come in from the rain. We need throw rugs to catch the water off of us when we get out of the shower or the tub, so that we don't slip. So don't get me wrong, I'm not against all throw rugs. I just don't like the ones that curl up on you or that wrinkle. So, trying to make sure that you can maneuver around them without them causing you harm would be the ideal. Just make sure they have a good rubber backing. And if they're in a high traffic area, more likely they're just going to need to be replaced more often. But those are some simple suggestions, I would say, that you could do.
Okay, those are great. A lot of people over the age of 65, between 65 and 70, they may get a new residence. They may move from the home that had all the steps, but they move to a new place. So one of the things that I'd like for you to discuss is type of residence, or what type of features in regard to having a safer home.
Mhm. Well, I would say if you're in the process of moving, you haven't already moved, I would say the first thing I would look for is first level living. So that means being able to sleep, bathe, and prepare meals on the same level. Um, ideally the same level that you walk in from the outside on. So the first level of a home. I know there's split foyer homes and different things, but if you can at least sleep, bathe, and prepare meals all on the same level, it just allows for a lot greater ease of mobility and independence. Doesn't mean you have to live in a single story home. Just make sure that that's all on the first level. You can still have an upstairs and, guest rooms and craft rooms or whatever it is that you like to do, exercise room, hopefully. Um, but stairs are still good. It's just, making sure that you can live on that level if needed. The other thing I would say are, doorways and hallways, making sure that those are a sufficient width to allow for the use of a walker or a wheelchair if needed down the road. I mean, we don't anticipate going to the hospital. We don't like usually want to go to the hospital, but sometimes it happens. And when we want to return home, a lot of the therapists in the hospital are charged with the task of deciding if your home is safe for you to return home, if you will be able to function at home safely. So knowing that your home has the right size doorways and hallways that allow for you to return home with your walker or a wheelchair, if that's the case, is going to allow you to be discharged there instead of maybe to a nursing facility in the meantime. Um, some other things to look for. Are there any grab bars already installed in the bathrooms, or how easy is it for like getting into or out of the shower or tub in that home that you're looking at moving into? Another thing, cabinets and appliances, are they accessible for your mobility level? So hopefully you're, moving around and you're independent now, but again, in the future, will your mobility level be able to, reach that microwave above the stove and those cabinets that are floor, from all the way to the ceiling? And so these are some of the things that we should think about, but there's also modifications if needed. And then the last thing I would say is maybe thinking about transportation in the area of your new home that you're thinking about. Is there any possibility that you could walk to the library or a senior center or a place that you really would like to go to, instead of having to drive there? Because obviously more activity the better. But also the chances of maybe not being able to drive your car in the future. You want to think ahead and anticipate these changes and maybe make it such that there's public transportation available where you're moving to, or you're moving nearby family that they can also get you to and from different places. So that's what I would say, is just to think about those things.
Those are some great tips. I really love that, talking about the cabinets and all of that. One thing that came to mind as we were going through this is I recall having a client whose pet tripped them and they fell over this little small pet. Can you address that a little bit? Because it's so great when you're aging to have a pet. They're good for you in a lot of ways. So, how do we stay safe with a pet in the home?
Yeah, I just had that situation in my family as well. My mother-in-law tripped over her dog while she was heading out to tell her husband how great this book was that she just finished reading. So it's really it's the same idea with the clutter, is that you have to pay attention to your environment. You really have to think before you move. You have to take your time. So, looking down at your where you're about to step, or moving in a way that you are very conscientious about how you're moving. Those are some great skills to put into place so that you reduce your risk of falls with a pet. The pet loves to be near you. It's going to want to be at your feet. It's going to be one to be right near you in the room. It may even follow you wherever you're going. So it's best to just be really, really thoughtful about your movements, and maybe, you could go get some training too. I was talking to a pet trainer the other day, and they said, we don't train your pet, we train you so that you can, move around your animal and have them, follow your commands. So I thought that was interesting. They don't train pets, they train people.
Okay, Kristina, this has been such a great discussion today. I really appreciate you doing this for us. So, if you will, tell us how we can get in touch with you. If someone needs to get in touch with you, all these home care agencies that may need a little extra teaching, they may need you to come in, talk to their nurses about doing a better assessment, because that's what nurses have to do in home.
Yeah.
We have to do a great assessment, and we catch some of those things, but some we may not catch. So how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can go to my website, which is prosperptnc.com, or you can email me at Kristina, which is Kristina at prosperptnc.com. I can't say enough how important it is for you to advocate for yourself and to, you know, get the falls risks assessments. If it's a nurse doing it, if it's a PT doing it, if it's your doctor, whoever it is, you need to have eyes on you before you fall to identify those risks, and see what's modifiable, what can be changed. Some things can't be changed. There are diagnoses that are deteriorating, like MS and Parkinson's and things, but there are other things that can be changed. And trying to advocate for yourself, ask for the fall risk assessment, or take the tool that is available online. There's one on the National Council on Aging's website. It's called the Falls Free Checkup, and it is a 12-question fall risk assessment. You can get it in English or in Spanish. It's a great tool to use even before you go see your healthcare professional. So I highly recommend you can contact me. You can talk to your physician, your healthcare provider, and just take falls risks into your own hands and make sure that you advocate for yourself.
Thank you so much. This has been a great discussion, and we will be in touch with you. Thank you for taking the time to give us much better education about being safe at home. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.